partner. I want to get a show of hands from the table here. Should men financially support and provide and protect for their partner? Show of hands. And then now, do you agree with the following statement? Women should be virgins. They should be submissive. They should cook. They should clean. And what else? What else should they be? I think that's a good, those 4 things. They should be virgins. They should be submissive. Then they should cook and they should clean.
How about just those 2? How about just we start with those 2?
Just virgin and submissive? Yeah. We can, okay, we'll keep it to those 2. Any objections from any of the, the 5th one that I was, they should not be involved in sex work. Any objections to the following, any of the following?
By submissive,
sure.
you mean like roles? Sorry, not to.
Well, but it's like, y'all women love to say men should do X, Y, Z, but if men say women should do X, Y, Z, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's kind of sexist that you think women should have to clean or should have to cook or should have to take care of the household.
I think you're describing a perfect woman, and then a lot of women are describing a perfect man. I want a man who's strong and going to protect me, and he's loyal, and he's got these Christian values, and he's got lots of money, and he's going to pay for me to get my nails done, and all that kind of stuff. And I think what you're describing would be, a very perfect woman. And we obviously live in a real world where a lot of people aren't perfect, but I don't think the idea of that's what a perfect woman is wrong.
I'm going to have to give a little pushback here. I think that the amount of men which you could shake a tree and would fall out that have some kind of Christian values and are willing to provide for their men their women is pretty overwhelming, honestly. I think that the amount, if there was a tree of men that you could shake, I think that you would, when you shook it, most of the men that popped out would be those kinds of men who could provide for you and have some kind of Christian values, right?
I mean, everybody could have their preference. There's nothing wrong if they want that, but not everybody's going to be in that category.
Hang on. We'll get right back to this. I'd like to finish the exchange though real quick. So assuming that that's true, right, that they would be willing to provide and they had some sort of moral values, I don't think we're talking about the perfect man here, right? We're not saying that they have to be 6'3". We're not saying that they have to make $1 million a year. We're not saying that they have to have perfectly chiseled abs. It's actually a pretty low standard that you're saying here, that they just provide some kind of living for the woman and have some sort of Christian values. That's an awful lot of men. Yeah. Do you think it's an awful lot of women who are virgins and would be submissive, though?
I'd like to really
hang on, let her answer.
Who?
No, I don't think there are, and I think that was one of the things I wanted to was a talking point that I was happy to get into on this show, was that I think society and just modern feminism is kind of telling everyone you don't need to be this, you don't need to be that, but men do want women like that, and nobody wants to admit it, or women don't want to admit it and say men want women like that. So I do.
Yeah, but going back to your earlier point, you were kind of trying to make the argument that, this is the perfect rendition, right? If men have these values, they're the perfect man. If women have these values,
No, I can rephrase that to
and so
be
what
ideal.
I think was happening there was a great conflation, right? Is that you were basically trying to say, well, we're on par with each other because there's very few men who would actually do this, just like there's very few women who are available to have these traits. But that's just clearly not true. Right?
No, I didn't say that. So I do agree with you that there would be more men who would be happy to provide, and everything you've said. Yeah. And I think women are much fussier when it comes to dating. So that's why it may seem.
Well, then why did you say it's the perfect man?
I would after what you said, I would rephrase it to say that would be ideal, and then ideal woman. But I do agree that there are very likely more men who would have those traits than there would be women.
Overwhelmingly more men.
I feel like because you kind of described the perfect woman, and we know most women aren't virgins, so it's
That's
she's
true.
looking at it okay, you're describing a perfect woman, so maybe you're trying to say that it's the perfect.
Well, I don't think.
Yeah. I
want to add something.
What is the male equivalent of a virgin?
Perfect meaning without flaw.
Yeah.
Right. Just because something is rare doesn't mean it's perfect.
Exactly.
So I don't think that just because a woman is submissive and a virgin, she's a perfect woman.
Yeah.
She could still be an annoying bitch, right? She could still cause all kinds of problems for people. She could be terrible, right? In all sorts of ways.
Personality.
I wouldn't say that makes her perfect. I wouldn't say that just because it's rare, that makes it perfect. So, no, I think
I would
that
rephrase it to say ideal.
Yeah, well, I don't even think it's ideal. I think it's just what there would be a normal expectation of, okay, if you want to be provided for, I want you to not have taken 50 dicks, right? Like, that's just, doesn't that seem totally reasonable? Doesn't that seem totally reasonable?
Can I
it
add
does,
something?
right? It seems totally reasonable.
Andrew, I want to add something to this. I want to say that to the ladies. The problem with the women today, especially in your generation, right? That it's so normal. All these things are so normalized to even not OnlyFans, even just you go to a club, the women dress like prostitutes, hooking up after 20 minutes for a drink, right? A lot of single moms, like, they have a lot of men providers coming and going, like, oh, this guy pay this guy pay electricity, this guy gave me this money, this guy give me this money. Put the virginity aside, okay, to find a virgin woman. Put the OnlyFans aside. Just women that consider the norm are even, and I met a lot, and even in this show, women that study like psychology or whatever, right? When you look at the personality and how they live their life, for me, it's like terrible. Like, it's like they have no guidance whatsoever. Nobody guide them how to speak, what to do. A lot of the singles mom here put their kids last and they first. It's more important to them to get a guy that buy them a Chanel bag or put them up in a place that they, a celebrity or something that they want, than actually to take care of the kids. And I'm telling you from experience, because for so many years I wanted to date, I wanted to do things, but for almost 20 years I had to put my life aside, take 3 jobs, and literally do it to my son. Everybody tell me, how come your son is such a good boy? It's not a miracle. He could easily be a thug. But I had to put my life aside in my best years when I was still sexual and feeling great and wanted to date and wanted to go out and have fun. I had to put my life aside, and a lot of people, women especially, don't want to sacrifice their life. They want to have fun, and then they wake up in their 30s or the 40s and then, oh my God, I don't have kids. Or they do have kids, but the kids see multiple men coming into the mother's life. Or women like you that had no guidance and they did what they did, and when you wake up, it's a little bit too late, And regarding to what Andrew said, it's so many good men out there, but not in these places that the women hanging out. If you go to LA and you go to the clubs and you go to all the places when the men come and they're looking for these vulnerable young women or single mom that dress, open and everything. It's specific men, all right? The majority is good men, but if you're not hanging out where the good men are, you're always gonna meet these users and abusers, mentally and physically. The most important thing, like, I can go out to so many places, but I know I'm not gonna find there a man. If I want to meet a man, it's completely different equation for me, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying with the, like, if you don't want a guy who clubs, don't, like, meet a guy at the club. But just to bring the conversation back to the whole virgin thing, I think something that we aren't really taught to think about when we're figuring out, like, what we want is we should think about values and goals, right? So this is why being a virgin doesn't equate to a man being a provider. It's because if your goal is to have a loving family, to settle down, to have a wife who can really have a family and take care of things and, like, be a strong rock for your family, a good mother, but you're saying she has to be a virgin, and you know that she'd be a good mom, but you're not with her just because it's a virgin, then that means that your value isn't helping your goal, right? So, like, if you're looking to have a family, then you want a providing man because that will help you with your goal of having a family.
You're confusing me because you said...
Actually, no, I understand your argument. So you're saying if you have the goal and your top priority is to have, like, a good mom for the family, she can clearly be a good mother even if she's not a virgin, right? I don't disagree that that's true, right? There's many women who end up being good mothers or good wives who aren't virgins, but that really sidesteps the point. And while cleverly done, unfortunately, I'm just not going to quite let you evade what the point was,
So
which
what
is
was the point?
The ideal here was talking about what men and women are valuing in each other for what it is that they want. And it seems that women, at least by the show of hands at this table, when they were asked if they would prefer a masculine man who provided, they all raised their hands, right? Am I wrong? Am I crazy,
Well,
or did they do that?
That wasn't what the question was. The question
What
was
was it?
should a man be a provider?
Okay, so then I'm sorry.
different.
If
the same thing.
all of
it's
you
very
raise your
different.
hand that a man, hang on. If all of you raise your hand that a man should provide, are you saying that men should provide, but you would just prefer a man who didn't provide?
Well, should implies like a moral obligation.
Ought, that implies ought.
Yeah.
So they
right,
ought to provide. So I'm guessing, I'm assuming
with
that they
the-
ought to provide
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
But
right?
the question was so non-specific for me. I am looking for a family, so when I'm looking for like, can this guy provide for the family? Then sure. But I'm not looking for a family now.
So then I didn't get any of this wrong.
Yeah,
Men
but I'm
ought
just
to
saying
provide,
that,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
want a man who provides.
Yes, but
Okay, got it. So I didn't
I'm
get any
just
of this
saying-
wrong. So,
I'm saying
hang on. So your
that-
false equivalency here of the value structure makes absolutely no sense. It's a sidestep.
So you don't
if that is
understand
the
or what?
case, that is your goal, if men also value, I will provide,
Yeah.
but I want a woman who has a very low body count, hasn't been in sex work, right, doesn't have a lot of baggage, that seems like it's a reasonably fair trade-off, right?
Yeah.
I'm just asking if you had like the perfect, and I know there's no perfection in humanity, whatever, but for the hypothetical, if you had the perfect woman, you knew guaranteed that she would be a good mother forever, but she wasn't a virgin, would you marry her?
Yeah, I think that many men would say yes, but the thing is that even if many men would say yes, in fact, even if most of them said yes, even if 99.9% of them said yes, it would actually have nothing at all to do with it.
Well, okay, let me get to the actual point.
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on.
Hanging
Right,
on.
I just let you go through the whole
I'm
thing.
hanging on,
right?
guys.
It would have nothing at all to do with this question, and the question is, if men have these expectations for what they would want or desire in women.
Yeah.
And one of the women's desires is that they provide, and men's desire is that women have a very low body count and aren't promiscuous and sleeping around, then is the expectation equal? You saying, well, maybe not, but those fuckers will still settle for a blown out chick doesn't mean anything. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the point I'm making. I can help you understand though. So, so what I'm trying to say is, let's say you answered no to that question. Then you need to ask yourself, is this value supporting my goal, right? And if you're saying no, then maybe that value is not supporting your goal.
Yeah, the problem is that you're equivocating because you're trying to pretend that you can't have multiple values which have the same equality to your goal. So you could have a value which is, I want a woman with a low body count, which is equally as important to me as her being a good mother, right? So you can have these values, you stating that because you're willing to settle or something like this, that doesn't mean that the priority in value shifts. It may not mean that at all. It may just mean, oh, I can't find anybody else, so I have to settle. But I still would have a preference to the opposition.
I think that,
Right?
I think you could definitely have your own values. I was just saying like,
Can I say that? Can I say tell you
Well,
something?
hang on. Let us finish the exchange. Hang on. Let us just finish the exchange. We're almost done. So what I'm saying is as we're looking at this, you would agree with me that men can, and women both, can have values which are equal to each other, right?
what do you mean by values that are equal to each other?
So, like, I think that not murdering and not essaying are equal in weight to me, right? Both of those values are equal in weight. So I have no preference for one over the other because they're both really fucking bad.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
They're both really bad.
Yeah.